Hi, this is video number 153. I did want to get back here in a couple days after the last video, and I've done it. Sunny day here today. I think we're supposed to have some rain later. It's pretty warm today, actually. I think it's supposed to get up near 50, so kind of looking forward to that. I sort of like to see snow, but when it's here, I don't like it, so I just rather have the rain. See what's been going on here. I've had some pain lately. I talked about using turmeric a few videos ago, and that really has helped with like the arthritis pain and stuff. But I noticed as time went on and I wasn't taking the naproxen, I was getting these other aches and stuff that I think the naproxen must have been dealing with, before I stopped taking it. So last night I thought I'm gonna take a naproxen and just see what happens, because the pain was getting really bad. It was waking me up at night, and in the morning I'd be laying there and like aching and not wanting to get out of bed. And it was I slept through the night last night, and today's been good. Did a workout. So I'm thinking there's two kinds of pain. There's like the pain from the arthritis, which is kind of like a burny, searing kind of pain, and then there's like this other achy, weird pain that I get. So I think what I will do is take a lower dose of the naproxen and the turmeric, kind of combine them, and maybe that mixture there will do the trick for me. I don't know. I only received one email since the last video. I'm not going to talk about that right now. There's a lot of other stuff I want to talk about, things that have been happening around here. This is going to be a different kind of video, and this might take several videos actually, because it might run on a good bit. I don't know. I don't want to be disjointed at all, but it might be. Tonight, going to an Asian buffet. It's called the Royal, I think. It used to be called the Jumbo, and then they closed it for a while. I think it had health violations, and now it's the Royal. I've been there a couple of times with my buddy Harold. They have really good sushi there, and they get this like awesome green wasabi paste. Super hot. Like, you gotta be really careful how much you put on, but I'm looking forward to that. The people across the street invite us every year around Valentine's Day. Their church, I think, like the Saturday before Valentine's, they have this thing. We haven't gone in a couple years, so people are going to be asking me about the beard, because I didn't have the beard. 2 years ago I think we went with them. So I'll give them the beard story, tell them like what it's all about, tell them about like you guys, and helping you through this and that, and see what they have to say. You never know. Usually when I tell the story, I find somebody who is taking benzos or something and they're having trouble. So we'll see how that goes. As I said, this video is going to be a little bit different, maybe a lot different. I don't know. It has to do with what I will say is the miracle of our existence. And the miracle is like, it's the mystery, it's the magic of life. And it's sort of I guess you would call this a spiritual sort of video. I'm not exactly sure. It has more to do with, as I've gotten well, and I've talked about this before, I've learned some pretty profound truths, I think, at least for me. And I would not have learned those if I had not gone through the withdrawal experience. And I think it has made me a better person, has made me see life in a different sort of way, more in a, how do I want to put it, more inquisitive, more, I actually see things as they are, like the purpose of my life, the purpose of life, I think, in general. So anyway, there's been, in the last week, I guess, there's been like this progression of things, I will say, that have happened, different things that came into my life, like emails, different kinds of things I've seen on television, that it just seems one adds to the one before, and before you know it, I get this whole big thing going on here. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit. The other night I watched the last part of Lord of the Rings. I've watched that now for, I think in the last year I've probably watched it 3 or 4 times, like the whole, from the 3 Hobbit movies to the 3 Lord of the Rings movies. I have a lot of it memorized, actually, a lot of the words and so forth, the dialogue. And at the end of the Lord of the Rings, the kind of like the hero Frodo, the Hobbit, who takes the ring and gets it to Mordor where it's destroyed, which is the whole point of the movie, really. He says something at the very end after the ring's been destroyed, after he goes back to the Shire where he came from, and he's going now to he's going with Gandalf, who is the wizard, and the elves, to getting on this boat and going, I guess symbolically it's heaven or something, I don't know. In other words, he's kind of leaving life on earth is kind of what it is. And he says this thing, this quote, he says, "How do you go on when in your heart you begin to understand there is no going back? There are some things that time cannot mend, some hurts that go too deep." And he's talking about when his adventure is over and he's back in the Shire, and he was hurt when, in his adventure to get rid of the ring, he was hurt, and apparently it was, in the movie, it's a mortal injury, I guess. So he was leaving the Shire. He was kind of like leaving Earth. But he's saying, like, there are some things that time cannot mend, some hurts that go too deep. You can't go back anymore. And it kind of made me think about benzo withdrawal, my experience in withdrawal, and like the pain of withdrawal, and how it was like so intense and deep, and it affected so many things in my life and affected me in a certain kind of way. And it's never possible to be the same again. It's not, you can't go back. And this is true for me, okay? I don't get the opportunity to speak to a lot of people who have been through this. So for me, I've always had this, I can never go back. None of us can ever go back to exactly the way it was, but I can never go back to being who I was before. And that includes relationships. And it kind of has to do with like one of my last videos where I talk about 100% healing and so forth. You can never go completely back to who you were. Once you get through this, once I got through this, I'm a new person. I'm different. It doesn't mean that I haven't healed. It just means I'm different now. I've been changed into a different kind of person. So I sent an email. You see, that was kind of what I sent to someone who has healed. That there's never going back again, including your relationships. They're different. They're not quite the way they were. So I wrote this email, and then I got an email back from this person who has healed. And it says, "This makes me think of withdrawal too, Don. Maybe the things we long to go back to, the thing we long to go back to is part of the stripping of our former self, emptying of ourselves. Maybe the understanding of not being able to go back is all part of that, painful and scary though it may be, a purification of sorts. But hurts that go so deep never to mend, perhaps like lingering symptoms, are those that enable us to feel empathy. If they were completely gone, would we be able to feel it to its fullest? Would we be able to feel another's pain? And then never being able to be the same has become something else, something more. Rather than having something taken from us, we have actually been given something much more. It's sort of like when you said in the last video, we may not be 100% like our former selves, but would we really want to be?" And that's pretty profound, really. That's like we all, like when we're in withdrawal, like I want to be 100% who I was before, normal. Well, actually, and I read this many times in success stories, and I've talked about it probably hundreds of times now. When you get through this, you're better than 100. You're someone different. You're just a different kind of person. You're so much better than you were before. And as she says here, it's not like we have lost something. It's kind of scary to think that, I know, and I'm not trying to freak you out or anything. I'm trying to let you know when you get through this, you are different. It's more like, and for me it's been this way, and for this particular person too, it's almost like the certain things about your life, your personality, your existence, they've been kind of like stripped away so that the pain was so deep that you have empathy, you have compassion for people going through it. That's kind of what she's saying, and that's true too. It's probably one of the reasons that I stay. That hurt was so incredibly deep and so long that it's almost like I have to stay. I have to, not out of obligation, but it's like I am compelled. That the withdrawal has changed me in that way that I stay, and I think it's true for her too. And so that's, I think overall it's a positive thing. Which, you know, it's interesting that, you know, I saw that movie and there was that quote and that, but there is something too that goes along with this, and this has been a little harder for me to kind of grasp, and I guess it's just human nature for me, and I stay because one of the reasons is I know what it's like to go through this, yet I also stay in some way for myself, and I have felt guilty about this. Like, ever since I got well, I have felt guilty, like I'm different. I view relationships now differently, and the ones that I had before, they're still good and all that, but there's something different about a relationship with others who have gone through it, who are going through it. It's almost like I need that myself. And I have felt guilty over these years that I've been well, that like, well, I should be feeling all of this toward like my family and friends and so on. And I do. I have like compassion and caring attitude toward everyone, but there's something special about somebody who's been through this. It's a shared experience. It's not like a loneliness. It's not really loneliness. It's more of a, wow, I've been through this thing. Wouldn't it be nice if there were someone here who had gone through it too? It's very strange, and probably as you get well, you'll understand it a little bit better, and it's not a bad thing at all. It's actually, I think, a very good thing. It's something that, I don't know, I think it makes maybe my compassion level better or something. I don't know. But it's a good thing, and this all goes to when you get through this, you're not the same person. So like gauging, like, am I 100% normal? Well, I think 100% normal, yes, but you're normal in a different way. Normal can be lots of different ways, and I think you're just a new person when you get through this, and it's in a good way too. It's in a good way. So, okay, that was the first thing of the progression. That was I saw the end of that movie and I thought about it, and like how Frodo's saying this, you can never go back, and in many ways that's true of probably of other kinds of pain too. Like people who went through the Holocaust and through that horrible experience, I'm sure you can never go back. Things are different now. You're different. You see other people differently. Relationships are different. Let me see how much time I have here. I'm not getting through this very quickly. Okay, I've talked about the church that I go to. I lead a small group after the church service, after worship service, and I've been kind of talking. I don't teach, I talk. I talk about my experience mostly, but it's this book, Healing for Damaged Emotions. And I was reading yesterday morning the next chapter, chapter 10, and the title of it is Myths and Truths About Depression. And I'm reading through this and so forth, and everything in the book so far has been really good, and I agree with, but I got to something in this particular chapter, a couple paragraphs I don't agree with. And I think I don't agree with, I would have probably agreed with it if I had never been through benzo withdrawal, and if I had never experienced just the horrendous black depression that we can experience. So what I want to do is read a couple of these chapters and talk about them a little bit. I'm going to need my glasses because this is pretty small font. Okay, the first paragraph reads, "Our failure to deal realistically with ourselves regarding depression is the root cause of much of our depression. If we have the idea that there is no connection between the natural, meaning our temperament and personality structure, and the supernatural, our spiritual lives, we are seriously mistaken. Both our feelings and our faith operate through the same personality equipment. God does not come to us in special ways which bypass or short circuit or sidetrack our personality equipment. He doesn't drill a hole in the tops of our skulls and with some magical, mystical funnel pour His grace into us. The mechanisms of our personalities, which we use in faith, are the same instruments through which our feelings operate. Okay, and the sentence in particular that I honestly don't agree with, and I think one of the most profound things I've learned from my experience has to do with this. If we have the idea that there's no connection between the natural, like our personality, our temperament, our organically, our body, our brain, and so forth, and the supernatural, our spiritual lives, we are seriously mistaken. Well, I think that's wrong. For me, when I was going through withdrawal, as we all know, when you're in withdrawal, and maybe this is not, but the depression of withdrawal is not your standard depression, short of that, but as I was going through it, my brain was not working properly. It was injured. And I thought a lot of things. I felt a lot of things. How do I want to put this? What I learned was that all of these things, the feelings, the thoughts, all of that all had to do with like an injured brain. That was organic. That was of this world. But the spiritual stuff was not of this world. That was an inner kind of thing. I was strong spiritually. And if you read this, it's like, and not just in withdrawal, but I've realized in other parts of my life too, that even though my spirit is a certain way, spirit of, like the spirit of the Creator, the spirit of God, like love and all of those kinds of things, that dealing with love, you still have like feelings, thoughts that they don't coincide with the Spirit. The Spirit is like, and to me, it's like the true essence of me. It's truly who I am. But you can't, and I think this is in the Christian church in general, we kind of think we can, through the Spirit, make ourselves express what our Spirit is telling us, express it outwardly to other people, when in fact we are human. There's the spiritual part of us and the human, the organic part. And so I don't think that the Spirit of God does not force us to express that in certain kinds of ways, and we're human and we fail sometimes. And what I wrote here, I tend to write things in the margin as I read these things. Having been through depression, I don't agree with all of this. Okay, the author talks about the personality here. And as I've gotten well too, I have realized, for me, and I think most people, we are on a path. We get like a personality. We get a personality. That's part of our path. We come to this earth. There's a certain path that we are given. There are certain things that we cannot control. Obviously, the beginning of the path is where we were born, who we were born to, what race we are, what our parents believe, all of that stuff. It's part of our path, but we're also given a personality. I don't know if that's genetic but we all have different personalities, so we can't change our personality. Our personality is our personality. It's kind of who we are, not so much in a spiritual sense, I don't think, but based on the organic part of us, like genetically, our brain, our nervous system, and so forth. So our personality is part of our path. It was given to us. We did not somehow develop and we didn't grow and develop our personality. It's part and parcel of the path, I think. So it's given to us. We didn't choose it. Okay, feelings come from like our brain, our central nervous system. And he talks about faith too. And he talks about, and when he's in here, he talks about spiritual lives. And I think maybe what he means there is the way we express how the Spirit of God is working in us, the Spirit of the Creator. And I think maybe if he had put, I don't know, our spiritual lives, that's how like our faith is expressed. It doesn't, faith is more of a spiritual thing. I can't, to me, faith is completely spiritual. It exists irrespective of like our personality, of our thoughts, our feelings. This is kind of, it's who we are. It's what is given to us, and it exists differently than our thoughts and our feelings, so that you can have the Spirit of the Creator in you, but yet have these feelings and these thoughts and so forth that they don't seem to match the Spirit that has been put in us. And I think in the Christian church, a lot of times, when I was younger, and most of my life, you get to the point where you think a lot of what the thoughts and the feelings that you have, you start feeling guilt, you feel, and you have a certain personality, and you want your personality to match like your spirit, and it doesn't always do that, but I don't think it has to, because these are things that are part of your path. They don't, your spirit is you. I know I'm babbling here. It's difficult to try to explain, but the thing that I think the most profound thing I have learned since I got well, and it was something that bothered me all of my life, really, and I never really thought about. My spirit is different from my thoughts and my feelings and so forth. My personality, my spirit it's the thing that causes me to view life a certain way, and you can have a heart that is loving and kind and good and caring, but how that is expressed sometimes has more to do with how you think, your personality, and so on. That's a better way of putting it, I think. So there was that. So to me, like, there's a difference between your spirit and the rest of you. The spirit is something like, it's like the imprint. It's like the stamp on you. This is who you are. All of the other stuff kind of has to do with like your path. Like we often think, well, we are in control of our path. Well, we're really not. I think the path is given to us, including our personality. It's how we walk the path, how we use our personality that's more important, I think. And sometimes we don't walk it very well, and that's when we have to change things up a little bit. But okay, there was a second paragraph here too. Let me see which one it is. Let me see. Okay, depression can come from sources outside the purely spiritual. I agree with that. They come because something has gone wrong with the equipment, perhaps in the physical or in the balance of emotions and personality. Circuits have been affected, a connection has burned out, and has affected even the spiritual life. I agree with most of that. Our spiritual life, I think, can be affected, but not our spirit. All of these things that go on in our life, they obviously affect how we think and how we feel, but I think, and that's how we deal with, how we express what's in our spirit, which we call our spiritual lives, like faith. To me, faith is not, we worry, like in the Christian church, people worry like, well, my faith, especially going through withdrawal, or just even if you're not going through anything, I need to increase my faith. I need to strengthen it. I don't think there's anything we can do. I think as long as we are given faith, that comes from the Spirit, and then there's not a lot we worry about, like I need to have a bigger faith, especially in withdrawal. You're suffering, and like a lot of people who believe, in the Creator, and that they think, well, I've lost my faith. I can't feel the presence of the Creator anymore. I'm having like these bad, intrusive thoughts. I'm no good. I feel guilt. I'm ashamed. And so you think like, well, God left me. I'm alone. Well, it's not true. That's you still have your faith. It's just you can't. The feelings and the thoughts come from, that's an organic thing. That's your brain. That's your nervous system. That's not your spirit. Your spirit is worried is causing you to worry that you've lost like your spiritual existence when you in fact haven't. I know I'm babbling here. This is a hard thing for me to talk about. It's and it probably doesn't make a lot of sense to you because you're still in withdrawal. But to me, there's a vast difference, really, and it completely contradicts the author here. There's a vast difference between our thoughts and our feelings and our spirit. Yeah, like the faith comes from our spirit, from the Spirit of God. Thoughts and feelings kind of, I'm not even sure they're connected. He's saying absolutely they are connected. And I would have believed that before. But the way I see it now, no, they're not. Your spirit knows what is right. It knows the truth. But your thoughts and feelings, that's part of your brain. That's part of your path, your personality. You can't, and there's not, I think we guilt ourselves a lot. Well, my spirit knows the truth and it knows how I am supposed to be and it knows about love and compassion and all that. But when I look at how I feel, the things I think sometimes, what I do and say, they don't match. Well, they don't necessarily have to match, and they can't match. We're human. We're not perfect. We all have flaws for certain. And I don't know that one flaw is any worse than another, actually. And I think for me, what it all boils down to is my eye should be on the spirit of the Creator. Like that's because there's a lot of good stuff there. Like, like the scripture says God is love. That's what he does. That's who he is. And that's, as long as we look in that direction, like the thoughts and feelings that we have sometimes mean they're gonna be wrong. They're gonna be flawed. But that's not, we tend to focus too much on all of that and take our eyes off of what is truly important. And that is like the Spirit of God, the Spirit of love. That's what this is all about. And I might be babbling here, but I think as you get well, like in withdrawal, this is hard. Okay, first of all, for someone who hasn't been through something like this, what the author has said here it sounds good. That sounds good and reasonable, but clearly the author has not been through benzo withdrawal or probably any kind of depression that he's writing about here, because he's writing all this based on what he has seen in other people. So having been through it, it's the spiritual part is different. It's not the same as my thoughts and feelings. They're very different. And as you get out of withdrawal, you start to feel well. It's almost like there's a spiritual clarity or something. Maybe it's a wisdom or something. I don't know. And when we're in withdrawal, we think about existence a lot. There's a lot of existential thinking, and I think to some degree that's good. That as you come out of this, you still think existentially, but you kind of, for me and for many others, you kind of all of a sudden you see truths about life that you didn't see before. You kind of, for a lot of people, you begin to understand some of the character of the Creator. So that's how it's been for me, and that's how it's been for a lot of people. So having confused you and hopefully not have frightened you at all, I'll let you go here because I'm getting pretty long. I had thought maybe I would get further with this and that it wouldn't be as maybe confusing. I don't know. But the bottom line for me is, as I have gotten through this, I see the Creator, I think, I see the truth. I see the Creator's not someone who has made us and then he has the hammer and he's throwing lightning bolts at us and that. And he's not condemning us because we've had bad thoughts and feelings and we haven't treated each other properly and we haven't loved ourselves and him and each other as we ought to. It's not like that at all. The Creator understands, we're designed, we're made, we're here, we have feelings and thoughts, but we're still loved, and it's that's really, really important. And I think in our essence and our spirit and who we are, as long as we know that, we're good to go. And as as you get well, it becomes more and more obvious, more and more evident, and you learn more truths. You learn more truths about life. And they're profound too. They're very simple. Like things I have learned are very simple, but they're profound too. And they make me see like, oh, that's what this is all about. This isn't the way I thought, the way I was taught all these years. It is different. So anyway, I'm over 30 minutes. I'm babbling. I'm sorry. So anyway, my grandson's coming over here in a little bit. Haven't seen him for like a whole week. He had his Valentine's party yesterday at school, so I'll hear all about that. That'll be cool. Going out later, as I said, to the Asian restaurant, and that'll be fun. The wasabi on the tempura, the sushi, be really good. It's really good over there. So I'll let you go. Hope you have a good weekend, and as always, I'm right here, and I will be right here. Bye-bye.